people that were messaging me saying, I hate Frankie, she's a horrible character. I then had the complete flip side of, oh my God, now I know why Frankie was acting the way she was acting. I want to look him in the eye when he can no longer deny what he did to me.
And then I found out the storyline, and at first I was like, it's a lot, but as soon as we had a conversation about it, I was on board. I said what Frankie told me to say.
That is just a disgusting lie.
Order!
There was so many really, really special moments where I'm watching the monitor and I knew that we were making something really, really special.
What's next for Frankie?
Her understanding or experience of trust is still one that needs to be worked out. So we...
Hello, I'm Ashley Taylor-Dawson, and I'm here in the very, very cosy dog with my on-screen children, Ryan and Izzy, who obviously play JJ and Frankie, our very talented director, David Crowley, who's been through us through this storyline, and executive producer, Hannah Cheers. So without further ado, should we all say hello to the camera? Hello.
Hello.
How are we all doing today? We okay? We're all good?
Yes.
Not feeling comfortable here?
Very
Tell your
cozy.
faces that.
Look at that fire, look at that fire.
Look at that.
Very
eh?
cozy.
Very homely.
It's lovely.
Yeah, we'll just start off by introducing, obviously, Izzy and Ryan. How are you feeling after this week's episodes?
Go on, ladies first, go on.
Thank you. Hello. Yeah, it feels sort of a relief in a way. I feel like that we've got the justice, especially for Frankie's perspective. But I also feel like a bit sad that it's kind of the end of this storyline. Not for Frankie, obviously, but like, you know, for us as well. It's like the end of an era, but
It's been quite a journey.
It's been a massive journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'll second it really. It's just been amazing. I've had a lovely week. We went on location, so that's always exciting.
Yeah.
Food was really good. And then, yeah, it just feels really right how it's come to an end. Frankie's got a justice. And yeah, and it left it on a really lovely note where you can kind of heal as a character and try and move on and see what happens next.
Yes.
Very good, very good. And David Crowley directed the final episodes in the courtroom, but also is there throughout the whole process through some very pivotal moments. We haven't seen it yet, so we can't dig you out about the final episodes, but how have you found the process?
I've loved the process.
Yeah.
I've loved being a part of this storyline, and I've been lucky enough really to start this storyline right from the beginning with you guys actually at screen test. So we screen tested you, and then been lucky and fortunate enough for Hannah to be able to give me kind of key points of your journey in this incredible storyline. All the way to the culmination of the courtroom, and it's been a fabulous experience. You know, there's been so much production value that we've put into this, and there's been so much effort and care to you know, do this storyline the best we can. And having seen it, I went up into the edit as soon as we came back, and Pauline, our editor, she showed me the courtroom stuff, because that was as soon as I bolt straight into the door, I'm like, bit of small talk with Pauline, and all I'm going is like, I want to look at the courtroom stuff. I want to look at the courtroom, and I saw it, and I couldn't help but feel incredibly emotional as soon as I saw it for the first time, because of just the importance of this story, the importance of what it means to the audience, which is the most important thing, but just how important it is to all of us as well. I mean, we care so deeply about this show in general. And just the power of this storyline has been so potent and been so important that to kind of have it end in this way was just really special. And I felt a great deal of pride in everybody in the cast, just exceptional performances, and in a brilliant crew. I mean, the crew were just fabulous, and they pulled us through, and we were just very fortunate to have a lovely few days.
Yeah, it was a fitting ending, but also just to say to the viewers that you really started this storyline with us right at the beginning, when we were finding out about the new characters from the audition, but even the first couple of episodes, you know, finding the final breakthrough.
Did the huge did all the football.
All
the football stuff. Get my foot trapped.
Yeah.
You did all that, didn't you?
Getting the foot trapped when we first started to reveal that JJ was the one that's been abusing Frankie, and everyone was going, oh, I think it was Suzanne's boyfriend.
Yeah.
I think it's somebody, you know, everyone kind of having their hypothesis on who they thought the person was. And then it finally turning out that it was JJ to the shock and horror of the audience, which was fabulous.
Yeah, that's great. And I think this next person doesn't need an introduction, but we'll get one because I've been with this show since 2009. I think first as a story associate, which I think is a story friend, a story assistant, a story storyliner, story editor, story producer, executive producer, Hollyoaks goddess, boss. Is that a good intro?
I'll pay you later.
Kind of sums it up though,
Thank
doesn't it?
you.
I mean, you have been here since the very beginning, beginning. That you're the heart of Hollyoaks, and I don't say that lightly. I think the first time we ever won Best Soap, you were there, you know, and you've always been, you know, behind the show, and I know we go way back. So it's incredible to have this storyline and it be, I suppose, one of your first big storylines that you've come in, you've messed the show up, taken things out, pushed things around, and this is the result. And I think from all of us, you know, it has been an incredible journey. So thank you for that, first of all.
Well, thank you. But
how have you found it?
Well, I mean, as you said, it's been an incredible journey, and I feel like it absolutely has been an incredible journey, not only for the characters, for Frankie, for JJ, for Darren, the Osborns kind of individually, but as David touched on, like for the whole production and for the show. We had our first kind of big long-term story summit in August 2023, and I'd been desperate to bring in Darren's twins because I was in the story team when Suzanne gave birth to the twins in the hot tub. Because I was across that episode and that journey, I was been absolutely desperate to meet Darren's twins for so long, and we were like, right, but we need to do something spectacular, and it needs to be absolutely, you know, a really impactful story for the Osborns to kind of enjoy that clan, because we were getting Jess Fox back from maternity, and I really wanted to kind of re-establish that family in the heart of Hollyoaks. And when we were bouncing ideas around for who Frankie and JJ would be, our story producer, Amy Chester, said, what if we played sibling sexual abuse and JJ was abusing Frankie? And we'd started off talking about Frankie as kind of a troubled teen anyway, or kind of, you know, gob on a stick type character with that energy. And then we were investigating, well, why, what makes her that? And this is where this came from. And this story, sibling sexual abuse as a theme, is something that has been on our radar for a number of years when I was on the show previously. And we just could never find the right characters to make it work with, either because of age or who the characters were attached to. It always has to be character first, and it has to work for the whole show. And it just never quite found its home, even though it was an issue that we were all aware of and passionate about telling. And all of a sudden it fit. And that night, I remember going back to my hotel room and doing loads of research. And I found a podcast that had been on Radio 4. It was a documentary that Radio 4 did a couple of years before. And I just remember like sitting in the dark, just kind of frozen, listening to this and realising actually how current and important it was, because the documentary described it as the last taboo. And there was a lady on there, Fleur Strong, speaking about a Home Office funded research project that they'd only just carried out very, very recently before this podcast went out a couple of years ago. And it was talking about how it was the first time that they properly investigated the prevalence of sibling sexual abuse in the UK. It's really quite terrifying and also alarming that it's something that not enough people talk about or know about. And actually that is one of the things that even when I've spoken to friends about it, they've gone, what? Is that something that happens? Because I think it's such a horrendous concept because of what it means in terms of the family and the split divisions on loyalty and love. And that's what is really interesting about the story and how we've played that out. But that's also why people shy away from it. It's too big and horrible to confront and to think about. But the flip side of that is that therefore it's hidden away, it's brushed under carpet, and it isn't talked about, and people don't therefore know if this is happening to them, that it's happening to others. And, you know, when we did then scratch the surface, you know, a lot of people that we worked with on the story kind of said, actually, this happened in my family, you know, generations back. And again, something that within families has been completely kept a secret. And so I felt like all of a sudden we had something here, a story that was going to mean a lot to survivors and to families, actually, importantly, not just survivors, but also the surviving families, to represent this. And within the Osbournes, we felt like we had the absolute perfect backdrop and the perfect characters. We also had the richness of being able to have Frankie and JJ coming in suddenly into Darren's life, and they needed to get to know each other. So it, you know, there was a journey in that first before we then unpacked that this was going on. But also we had the dynamic, of course, of of Suzanne being the mum and Nancy's the stepmom. So it kind of lent itself to really rich relationships and stakes in that story. Obviously, we ended up kind of having Nancy become a kind of, wrongfully accused of pushing Frankie down the stairs as a consequence to all of JJ's lies and manipulations. So it became a very kind of wide-reaching story that gave us a really strong spine to the show for all of the year.
I think that for that reason, there were so many possibilities for it just to be put aside. And I think that's the interesting thing about this whole storyline, is that I think as parents even, or as families, it was so shunned back in the day because it just wasn't accepted. And, you know, if you even mention something like that, you know, it'd be embarrassing for the family. It'd be, especially going way back, because in those days you wouldn't even talk about things like this. And I think the clever thing they did here was with all the, like, the stepfather, stepmother, you know, it's all these different dynamics which just make it even harder to play on, because obviously you think Frankie's just playing up and every excuse he chooses to use kind of works, because you'd rather believe this boy than
it's an easy option, isn't it? It's like, okay.
Exactly. And the thing that I was really compelled by was kind of understanding what that would essentially mean for Darren and for Suzanne. But if, you know, as a parent myself, the kind of worst thing that can happen to your child is that your child's abused. But then having to confront the notion that your other child, who you also love unconditionally, is actually the perpetrator or the child who harms. I mean, that is a complete, like, how do you even begin to process that? And what are those conversations? I was fascinated by the idea of what happens in that immediate moment after Darren finds out. How does he begin that journey? And we talked I talked to David a lot about, in the conception of those episodes where Frankie did disclose to Darren, about needing to be with Darren in that moment, watching him walk to the car, watching him go and sit in the car with JJ, in a very kind of real, everyday scenario where life is buzzing on around you. Because when these things happen, the world is moving and everything keep going on, but something massive, a landslide moment has just happened to you. And that is the thing that I felt would help the audience relate to it, but also was really prime for kind of, you know, for the drama as well. And just to be able to watch Darren's process of processing and see how all that kind of landed in him and what his immediate response would be, and all the questions that you've got as a parent and as someone who's therefore been oblivious to this. And then immediately, you know, what do we do? Where do we go for help? Because this is the thing that a lot of surviving families say. They don't know what to do. And actually, often they'll turn to a social worker, and even they, because of how kind of hidden and taboo this subject has been, don't actually know what to do for the best. And it's
well, that's something I could vouch for there, and I'll ask you to in a minute, is the fact that I think this script, we know the storyline to a point, we know what's going to happen to a point, we know what we're trying to get out of this scene, but I think more than ever in these scenes that we've been playing, I've been looking at scripts and reading them going, what do I do? And this, I'm saying as an actor, like you're trying to work out where your head would go, even though you know I've got to get to here, but what would you feel? How? And I get the amount of times I said to myself, what would you do with that? What would you do? And I was like, I don't know, and I don't even know how to play it. So you're thinking, playing it out in real life, you know, and upsetting someone or bringing it up with this person or your uncle or your auntie or whoever it might be within a family, you know, that's when you look into that and the scenario, it's brutal. It really is. And I think, I mean, for yourselves, it's never been black and white, this storyline. It's never been a linear way to play it. David has been incredible with that, because he'd sit down with us for a bit too much time, actually. You'd talk forever, we really would.
He's a real
But
perfectionist.
because he's a perfectionist, and it's brilliant. He takes you through the story and gives you all these ideas, and you have to go there because there's so many avenues, and you don't want to turn around after doing a scene and go, oh, why didn't we do that? Why didn't we try that? Why
I
didn't
think
we
that's
do
why it
this?
was so interesting though to play for all of us, because it is so complicated, but that's what real life is. Because if we were playing it where it's kind of like this Disney World thing where everything works out, life isn't like that. So I think it was such a blessing for all of us to play, because a bad person's not just a bad person, or a good person's not just a good person.
Yeah.
So to play a character with loads of different shades, and all of us, the dynamic of that family, I think that's why it came across quite well. And I've just enjoyed it loads.
And crucially, in terms of that concept of what would you do, not knowing what you would, how you're going to play this and what someone would do, that's the thing that I'm really passionate about, just generally in the show, and specifically with the story. There isn't, there are so many things in life where there is not an answer. Like, how many times in life have you talked to your friends about a dilemma, or your family? There is no right answer often.
No.
And therefore some stories and subjects in life can be, well, this is what you do if this happens to you, and then you do X, Y, and Z, and hopefully the right thing will end up. But often you really don't know which way to go. And I think it's just as important to play the floundering and that I don't know what to do. I don't know what I would do, and I don't know. And I've been quite, again, passionate with the writers about saying, I want the characters to say, I don't know what to do here. What would you do? Because it's real. And as long as we can, as long as somebody at home goes, that's like me, I didn't know either, then we've partly done our jobs, because it's about, showing that this happens in reality and you're not alone.
Also the signs. Sometimes I think we can push stuff aside because we just think, well, that's kids, that's this, that's that. And, sometimes it is more important to look a bit deeper and scratch the surface and see if there's anything else there. Because I think that's what this storyline taught us all, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it's that dilemma as well that is so interesting for me to observe in a character, to see the I don't know, but I'm trying to go about performing certain actions, certain tasks, whatever that is. That's that inner contradiction is where the drama is at as well. And I think that obviously, we get the scripts a little bit earlier, and I spend weeks and weeks plotting and prepping my response to the work, to the scene. And then what I find so brilliant is that then when I work with brilliant actors that have their response to the scene, and how it all kind of comes together. If it's a two-hander or a three-hander or whatever, it's that thing of like how everybody's interpretation of this really, really complex issue and this really complex situation, how that all comes through the dialogue, comes through the action, comes through the contradictions, and comes from each other as well.
There was never a right or wrong from the off, was it? It
No.
was always a process.
Yeah.
We'd all sit down together, come with our own ideas. Obviously, as a director, you know what you want from it, and you'd have it placed here, and then you might just go, actually, forget that. No, this works here. It needs to be here, and
it's where the magic is, and you guys, the actors, bring the magic, and I think that's where some of those answers are. And what I find always really fascinating, and what's happened so often through this storyline, because it's been treated with such care from the actors, is that you're finding some of the answers in each other as well. So it's like certain actions that you're playing, like that Darren plays to Frankie, and Frankie then finds a response to that, and that is those magic moments, I think, that have captivated me as an audience member watching this. It's just been a fabulous thing to observe, because there is no answer. Yeah. There is just these characters sinking and then just coming up for air at certain points, and then just sinking back down into this situation, and that being so difficult for us to watch, because it makes us ask questions as an audience of going, what would I do in this? Would I be like Darren, or would I do the complete opposite? And that whole like human connection that we feel to each of the characters, including JJ, like if there's all these different complex questions that it raises as an audience member watching this through what we're seeing on screen.
And I have to say, like, obviously, credit where credit's due, you three, and Jess and Jimmy and Suzanne, never have you given the same performance in any scene. There's always been a nuance or a difference or a different shade of grey that you've offered in every single scene. And to do that consistently over, 9-month period is not easy and incredibly hard. And, you've brought that for us, and the writers have been brilliant in delivering those nuances as well, and finding those moments that make because it was heavily played in the domestic Osborne set. A lot of those scenes could have been quite repetitive, arc after arc, but it was never written like that. It was never directed like that. And it was never performed like that. There was always something new about every single part of it. And you guys, honestly, tracked your own character journeys immaculately. So,
well, on that note, I'll ask Izzy now. I mean, obviously, you both got the role on the same day. We were there at the auditions.
Yes.
Look at you now, eh?
No.
Very nice. But yeah, so Izzy, what was it like for you? Obviously, you'd probably had an inkling of maybe what you were going to do when you went for the audition.
Yeah.
But what did you know about it, and how did you react to the actual reality of what you had to take on?
Yeah, so it was the same for Ryan as well. When we actually auditioned, we had no idea what the storyline was going to be.
We did a scene. I was there with the two of you,
Oh,
and
yeah,
it was
so
basically just you being a brat and you being a
just
cocky
me
little lad.
gobbing
and that
off,
was it, really.
basically.
Yeah.
But we didn't know about the sibling sexual abuse storyline. We had no idea about that. So I, from my self-tape, and then the first audition, and then obviously a chemistry test.
And you got paired up.
We got paired up, yes. And I think I just wanted to go in there and try, and I knew she was gobby and whatever, but I thought, why is she being like this? There's obviously something going on in her life. And so she wasn't even called Frankie at this point. I think she's called Ellie or something like that was auditioning for. So I kind of just made a little background story, and thought, she's struggling. She's got some anxiety. She's lashing out. So that's the way I kind of approached it. Trying to find a reason as to why she was behaving like that, which worked.
Yeah. No,
but then
So when you found out the news.
So when I found out the news, immediately said, as long as Ryan's okay with it, yes, incredible, an amazing story to be a part of. And I approached Frankie the exact same. I did a lot of research. We both did with
standard.
Sarsis.
Did you have any idea about this storyline? Did you have any idea about the subject, or was it quite completely taboo?
It was completely taboo.
Yeah.
And ignorant of me that I knew absolutely nothing
Or
about
not.
it, but
That's
then
the point,
also
isn't it?
But I think that's
not,
what makes it so
because,
interesting.
Yeah, because there's nothing in the media, there's nothing on social media, nobody's talking about it. It's something I was never spoken about to at school or by my parents to be made aware of. So a lot of research was needed and is still needed from me. I still continue to work with Sarsis. We both did. And yeah, I always tried to play to the fact of, well, why is Frankie lashing out? Because in the beginning, I came to you and I said, everyone hates Frankie, she's horrible and she's always gobby and she's shouting at everyone.
That changed
Don't
pretty
worry.
quickly.
But I said, listen, if they do, that's what you're supposed to be doing right now. You're taking them on a journey. And I know at the beginning, like you say, as a young actress coming onto the show, and social media is a powerful thing. And I said, but that's not you, it's Frankie. And that's what we're aiming for right now. Because in the payoff, when you actually realise this young girl is
going through
hell.
Yeah. And I think that was nice, because then I had people that were messaging me saying, I hate Frankie, she's a horrible character, I wish she'd go away. I then had the complete flip side of, oh my God, now I know why Frankie was acting the way she was acting. I completely sympathise with the character. I want her to go on and get the justice. Thank you for doing this storyline. The message is completely flipped to, wow, okay, so if somebody's acting out like that, maybe there's there's a deeper reason behind it, and I think that's kind of what got people talking in the first instance. And you know, we've just the conversation's been taken so much further than I think we could ever have hoped and imagined.
It's quite powerful and upsetting how many people actually reach out with this storyline, and even people you know, which is quite scary. And I think that's with all the storylines we do here at Hollyoaks, part of it is the social side where you're getting the feedback, and I think it's quite eye-opening when you realise it's like people want you to tell their story and they only feel accepted when they see it, and then they become part of something. And I think that's what's so powerful about TV and soap, especially, you know, today. And I know the kids side of it it's been incredible virally, which I find very strange. I don't know if it's the shock factor, the reality, the drama, but you know, the TikToks and stuff of this world have been going bonkers. And I think people talking out, that's the main thing.
That's what we
talking.
always wanted. You know, when we sat down for the first time, we just said, we want to get people talking, and we want to, you know, we want SSA to be a household topic that people feel comfortable that they can come forward and speak about. And I think we've had the desired effect and more, really. Yeah.
And for you, Ryan, obviously, same. You get the audition, you're buzzing, you've got a job, you're in Hollyoaks, and then you find out you're doing what? And how was that for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was an absolute roller coaster. Like, it was my first ever screen test. Sat down, paired up with Iz. So nervous, and Izzy was so great with me. She sat me down and was like, we were going to be doing this. She was like, we are getting this audition. I remember me sat there like,
He was so nervous. I said, get in that room. You know,
she told me this that little spare room.
There's like a side room at the canteen. I said, go in there. I said, read me your pads. Let's do that. I was like, don't be nervous.
Because like my mum, she was like, you've got crusty lips, so she started getting a Vaseline
on him. I was like, right, come on, like, we're going to do this. I said, just go in, have fun, whatever happens, happens.
And I think, and then we did have fun, and that's what I think we've had. Oh, and that's thank you to Hollyoaks. Like, it has been, even though the storyline's been so serious, but it's been so spontaneous, and that's why I feel like it's been fun on set, and to be confident and to play a character like that. So when I found out I was on my way to college, and then I'm on the tram in Manchester going in, and it's like, you know, if your agent calls you, it's a good sign. So I'm there like, and they call me in the tram, and I hate answering the tram because it's so awkward. Everyone's like looking at you. So I answer the call. It's like, you've got the part. And I was like, I've never, like, the feel in my heart, it was like dropped, and I couldn't stop smiling. I was like the Cheshire Cat. I was going around college, like walking around like, whoa, I'm going to be on TV in a few months. And then, and then I found out the storyline. And at first I was like, God, it's like, it's a lot. But as soon as we had a conversation about it, I was on board. Because as an actor, parts like that are, for me anyway, are so interesting to play. It's like, and like I was saying about the spontaneity, it's like, so say how Darren probably finalised figuring out that JJ was the abuser, it was like it wasn't in the script or anything. Me and Ash were talking, it was like, so maybe if you get physical with me and try to like advance and be like aggressive to me, it kind of breaks you out of this shell. It's JJ's not far from this really shy, nice human being, that I was advancing on you, and then that kind of made it click in your head, was like
the penny
it was you.
Yeah.
I've never seen that side of you. And I love stuff like that, because I never thought of it until we stood on that set in that morning, and then we just had loads of fun with that scene. So, yeah, it's been an absolute roller coaster.
And you've been incredibly responsible, both of you, like in the way that you've kind of taken on the research and cared about it and wanted to get it right, and also just from, you know, the weight of carrying a story like this, which has become, as you say, viral, and the pressure of that on you guys when you're the ones in, you know, walking around and on social media where you're open to anything. And I know that's not been easy for any of you, so we are incredibly grateful and to you for taking that on. And yeah, from the moment that you knew that you were going to play this character, Ryan, you have just had such a level of maturity about it, and, you know, generosity of spirit about it, and just kind of like, let's do this because it's important and it matters, and that makes you a wonderful actor. And
definitely. On that note then, outstanding moment to the storyline. That's a tricky one, isn't it? Everyone think about it.
Just one.
Just one. If there was one outstanding moment, I am here. No. There's been so many. I mean, I'll say that first. I mean,
Yeah.
I've had some. I mean, I think even the car one with you, for me personally, was great. We sat down, did that. Obviously, the revelation when you find out, again, another one of those moments where you can't even think what to do. And I've still got to question the fact, are you still lying to me?
Yeah.
And these are the things, all of them. There were so many, I say peaks, but I mean as in performance level for all of us. I think, I mean, for yourself, which would be the main one you can think about? You got it?
I think, it's difficult between the moment that Frankie tells
Give me
Darren,
top three then. I think
but
it'd be better,
because
wouldn't it?
that moment was just everything and more. I mean, we've been wanting it. The writing team, the editorial team have been
of
wanting
course.
to watch that for ages. The whole production team have, but also the audience then became obsessed with needing to get to that moment when Frankie finally says it. And again, that was something that we were really like, it has to come from Frankie. Like our series producer, Cy Wall, pitched this whole idea about how it was based on Darren saying, I love you. And then that moment, the floodgates opened for Frankie, and that's where it came from. Because it was like total validation that Frankie had never experienced before. And that's what pushed that emotionally for her. And we spoke a lot about the filming of that moment and what was delivered. I mean, just incredible, absolutely incredible from both of you. But I think, it's difficult to even categorise these, but the moment when JJ first goes into Frankie's bedroom, for me, I will never
Just
forget.
got goosebumps then.
Yeah,
I'll
did
never
you know?
forget being in the view and watching that moment, and just I had complete goosebumps and just couldn't speak. It just kind of, it was Ellie Brent that shot it, and where she kind of captured this when JJ sat down, like the creaking of the bed noise, and then the kind of the handheld camera as we kind of like JJ was like approaching or advancing on Frankie, and it was so real and so normal but horrific that I was so overwhelmed seeing it, even though we'd been planning it and talking about it for so long. Just seeing it, I thought, okay, I think this is going to be pretty special. And
But you also question it as well. I mean, I know from the past, I think one thing we'll probably all agree on here, a lot of the time when you get scripts, you just read your scenes. Because the other scenes don't really matter, they don't impact you. And sometimes I say I don't want to know what's going on elsewhere, because then when I play it, I know what I'm playing and not that. But in this specific storyline, it was like, I want to know what's going on there. I want to see what's happening there. Or I want to watch it and see how it's played. And I remember seeing that for the first time, and it's disturbing. Yeah. But I think for the right reasons, for the, with the impacts. I have my kids myself, and I get the compliance now. When I was a kid, I thought, just say it, just do that, or, be that intense. But I think that was the thing. It's sometimes suggestion is more than anything, and I think that's one thing.
Absolutely.
David has done incredibly well. I don't feel like you miss out on anything, and you understand exactly what's going on, and it's terrifying. It really is. And obviously, we've done interviews with victims. Yeah. We did a while ago with Digital Team, and I think that's brought it home even more, didn't it? When
absolutely.
you're thinking, oh my God, I'm playing out their life, which is massively important to this. So to you, David, having this storyline, what was the most important thing about getting these scenes right? What is something that went throughout all the episodes that you did, and kind of the pace and whatever it may be? What was that?
Well, there's been so many in this story that, because again, I've been so fortunate to see you guys through a lot of this journey, and there's been so many moments for me that I found incredibly special, too many to count. And I suppose for me, when you receive a story like this, and you're given this by Hannah and her team, her whole team, and you turn the page, and every time you turn the page, you're fist pumping and going, oh my goodness, this is absolutely incredible stuff. Like you can't wait to get into it. And then you finish the last episode, and then this moment of fear and dread just rises up inside you, because you go, okay, you've been delivered this by the team. Now you've got to go and get it.
Yeah.
And the expectation on this is huge, as we all know. But the expectation I have on any scene that I'll ever shoot here has always been huge, because of how, my own standards that I try and set myself. But this storyline kind of exceeds that a little more, just because of the importance that I know that the audience have around this. So I feel like there's there's constantly when you're on the floor and you're filming stuff, there's always these small wins that you get. You know that you're making something really special. And I felt that the week that we did around the football stadium, in the football ground, being in the dog here right now with you two when Frankie reveals to Darren, you two in the car, there was so many really, really special moments where I'm watching the monitor and there's no cut, there's no edit. I'm just watching the monitor on one camera, looking one way, and I knew that we were making something really, really special and really remarkable. And the hardest thing about that was not being able to tell you guys, because as soon as I tell you, then it's in your head that this is like, I'm going, right, well, let's turn the cameras around, but this is special and this is remarkable. And it's like, oh my God, I don't need to hear this. I just need to be doing my job and focusing in on what I do best. But knowing that there was something really special and magic happening on set was so important and brilliant. And the thing that just pops out is more of a behind the scenes thing rather than the thing that happened on camera, is the scene in the car with you two, Darren and JJ. The audience won't know, but we broke for lunch just before we started that scene. And Ryan said, oh, I think I'm just going to stay here and kind of go over my bits and pieces. So I'm like, okay, I'll stay with you if you want, we can talk about some stuff. And then Ashley was like, right, well, let's all just have a little bit of a go. And we sat in the car park, in the dog car park, over lunch, having a go at this scene and just kind of talking about it and putting little bits of detail in. And the way that we film on this show is really, really quick, and there's lots and lots of things that we need to get through in a day. And being able to have that time to spend just over lunch, just to kind of like set our stall out and discuss it and talk about it and finesse it, made it, those details and those nuances that all just came through.
It's so powerful, and I said to you, so we want to get this right, and so we don't want to leave anything behind here. I think you want Darren, you want Darren to smash his face in, basically, but you can't. And you've got that fight with your conscience, with what's going on with Frankie, and it's again another one of these scenes where you just want to do it justice. So with that said, a lot of these scenes that we've been doing are obviously very hard to watch for the viewers, obviously for the writing and from the compliance side. Now, I know when I did the depression storyline, I got psychoanalyzed, and I thought, why? And I'd never had that before. And obviously it's what they do these days, and it's to look after you, because when you're playing something over and over and over again, your brain doesn't always know what's real and what's not, and that's why people say be positive, say something positive and tell yourself positive things and you'll be positive, but it's not that easy. So from your point of view, compliance and behind the scenes, obviously, I mean, Izzy, going in every single day, I mean, you're incredible what you do, your performance, but there wasn't many easy days for you, if at all, playing this storyline, and I mean emotionally. It was an emotional roller coaster, and you're talking 80 to 100% all the time. It's not, it's not a little tiff. Came in as an angry girl, even then you had this backstory. So what was that like for you? How do you deal with it? So how do you set up for that? And how do you get in and out of that mode? Because everyone's got their own way.
I mean, I think I've been psychoanalyzed maybe 4 or 5 times.
We need another one, love.
Which is just, it's great because I know that I've got that support there if I ever want to lean on it, or I need to ask or say, guys, like, I need a bit of help. I'm struggling a bit here. And I've felt fully supported throughout the whole storyline still now. Me and Ryan have very different ways of getting in and out of character. I like to do my research so when I get the scripts through, I like to do my research. I like to action everything, think about my objective, overall aim, and then I like to leave it. And then I come to it, like 2 days before, read through everything, learn it, make sure I've got it down, and then I leave it again. And then when I come to set, that's when I think, right, okay, where's Frankie? Where's she being? What's she doing? I already know the work. I've done the work. I've put it in. And then I just allow myself naturally to kind of find whatever she's feeling in that moment. But before we get into it, I just have to laugh, and I have to joke, and I just have to be silly, and then I get into it, because otherwise I think I'd be really sad. Because Frankie, she's so special to me, as she is to a lot of people, which I'm so grateful for. But I like to be her in the moment, be her in the scene, and then just come out of it straight away. I like to laugh and high five and do something silly. And
sometimes that's a strange thing about being an actor.
Yeah, sometimes
you're on set and you're doing some of the darkest, deepest stuff.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I'm very much the same, I even edit myself. I say, "That's all you're getting. I'm out of here." Right.
Yeah.
Well, because it's like you've gone there, you've done it, and
Yeah.
I mean, the whole thing of method, I get it for some things, if you want to be a bit there and you want to stay in that zone. But I think for us, especially in soap, it's quite tricky. You don't want to stay in that zone all day. I think you'd be a very miserable person if you did.
100%. And I think that's why me and you, when we've done so many of these scenes, have stayed apart. Because
I'm the complete I'm a nightmare.
What do you do?
No, so before, let's say that we've got like a really big scene or whatnot. So Izzy's amazing. She's like laughing and joking. And I'm there like, oh, no, I need to, like, I can't be doing this. But so I love, I write diary entries a lot. So I like really getting in the headspace of the character because of what he's doing, why he's doing it. So.
What, diary entries as Ryan? Or
No, as JJ.
As JJ,
like, so I write in, like, as my character of like just every little feeling he's feeling, of, like why he's doing it. And that really helped me get there. And I like music as well. I really like music.
So
I've got these massive headphones.
So
I'll
he
just like,
sits
I'll sit
on
away.
one side of the room.
Izzy's having a great time, then she just snaps into it. I'm like, oh.
I don't know why. I can't do it any other way. Like, I read my victim statements. I've listened to that podcast that you've listened to. I've watched a lot of. There's a really good BBC. I feel like I've sent it to everybody. Really good BBC documentary I've seen.
She sent to me like 5 times.
Yeah, I have. And then obviously we work with victims, and they sent me their statements. So that's how I prep. I read all of those. But yeah, we have to sit on opposite sides of the room.
And then it's like, what after we do this? It's so fun. We do this massive take. And it's like, oh, well done, mate.
But then we have to do a little
We do a high five.
That's what the intimacy coordinator told us to do. Because sometimes your brain doesn't understand.
It's not real.
What's going, and it's not real and what's going on. So to break out of it, we have to do a little high five and
sometimes you get in the car and you go, what's wrong with me? I'm okay.
Oh, I'm okay.
I'm okay. I'm okay. I'll ring
After
my family.
that night shoot was like that, I feel, because when we did the actual in the park,
was tough, was hard.
It was cold, and then we were doing it, and then
it
was like we were both drove home. We were like, oh
I drove home in silence.
We were just like, what just happened?
Yeah,
but it was a special. It had like a special atmosphere, and especially like the big scenes. I feel like it always had a certain environment which felt really special.
And the crew have been amazing. I mean, we've asked for a lot of closed sets. Sometimes you go on and you're like, okay, would it be okay if everybody's a bit quiet for like 5 minutes? And everybody's just been so amazing and really giving us the time. And that's why we love working with David so much, because he just gives us so much time, so much space.
It's amazing to be around people that are passionate, and David's really passionate.
He's the most passionate
and it's so,
director I think I've ever worked.
Inspiring to be around, because when you're with someone who loves it, you get so excited, I feel. And all of us, because we love acting and whatnot, it's like, but when you're with David, it's like, this is what we're going to do, and everyone gets really excited, and like, how are we going to look at that scene? And it was just the most amazing process, because it was fun, but then we tried so hard, and we put loads of work and loads of effort into it.
Okay, well, on that note, after this, we're going to answer some questions from the fans. But first, I'd like to ask, why do you think there's been such a massive reaction to this storyline?
Because, as we've kind of established, it's still such a taboo, and therefore something that, an issue that a lot of people, A, haven't heard of, B, don't like to think that it happens and it goes on, and that it goes on as much as it does. So I think there's been, a huge recognition from people that have unfortunately gone through this themselves, or are going through this themselves, or it's happened in their family. I think finally they will see themselves reflected on television and people going through that journey, and that is so important. You touched on it before, Ash, but stories help us find meaning in life, and that's because you can compare yourself to it, and it helps you find structure in your life. So I think for survivors and people that have experience of this, it's been important and has landed from that point of view. And I think for other people, it's kind of a bit of a jolting moment of realizing that there is something that is so prevalent that you have no knowledge on. And it's quite amazing to be in 2024 and to realize that something is such a prevalent crime and to not have any knowledge of it. You know, there are so many, everybody watches true crime. How many criminal procedural shows do we all lap up on streaming and, you know, telly everywhere? And yet this issue is barely touched on. Yeah. So there's an educational part of it, and therefore that becomes very intriguing and interesting. And then you, of course, the work that you guys have done, you become completely hooked in and anchored to those characters, and you care about them, and you want to know how this is going to unfold. So yeah, I think it's the it's not a fresh or new subject, but I think to a lot of people it has been in terms of their understanding of it for the first time.
Okay, and with that said, what's next for Frankie? Any special revelations you can give us right now that even Izzy might not know?
I don't think there's anything Izzy might not know. I hope she doesn't
know. Any little spoilers, teasers?
So Frankie, post-trial, is obviously on a journey to rebuilding her life. And again, that has to be a journey filled with hope and potential, but also reality. And, you know, with the trauma that Frankie's been through, there is a lot to navigate in life. The other thing is that, of course, she does have this incredibly strong bond with Darren and Nancy now. However, her understanding or experience of trust is still one that needs to be worked out. So we test the relationship between Frankie and Darren. That's a big spoiler. And the way that Frankie copes with that, we'll see her trying to make a go of things on her own and end up potentially in danger in somehow. Yes, I'll say that. That's a big enough spoiler, I think. So yeah, lots more Osborne drama to come.
All right. Well, with that said,
Sorry,
we've got some questions here. Yeah, give me a break. We've got some questions here from the viewers, and on the family storyline, I think it's good that we mention obviously Suzanne, Mummy, Nancy, and of course Jack.
Yes,
been a massive part of this storyline. What's it like working with your family on set, guys? What's it like?
It's literally just like working with your family. Honestly, it's like coming to
so
work.
Annoying. No, I'm joking.
I say, you know, you're all like my second family, and we do stuff outside of work. We're going for our Christmas dinner soon, aren't we? Our Osborne Christmas dinner.
Ryan's paying as well, isn't he?
Yeah, Ryan said he'd pay actually, which is so lovely of him. But yeah, I think there's been days where I've come in and thought, oh, how am I going to get through the day? It's so big and I'm really anxious. And then I come in and literally like that, everybody's like, no, what are you anxious about? Like, let's go through it. Let's have a chat. Let's work out, you know, blah, blah, blah. Let's do this. Let's do that. And immediately I feel so much better. And I think every day I come into work, I'm just so lucky.
Was even being like unserious. Like everyone's obviously like, they'll look after you.
Yeah.
But it's just like, no one takes it too serious and everyone's like puts a smile on your face.
Yeah, 100%.
Like you'll come in and you think, oh, I'm tired today, or I can't really be bothered doing that. And then someone make a joke and you're just like, oh, this is such a lovely place to work. Yeah. And it was really nice.
We always have lunch together. And it's lovely. Like literally Ash is like work dad and Jess is like work mum, and honestly
Suzanne.
They've just
never
been
laughed so much as Suzanne and Sarah.
The best family we
and
could
for
go
you, David,
into.
is it the same experience?
Yeah, do you like working with us?
Hate us all.
It's a brilliant experience, I have to say. It's there's so much that we have to do to make the show. There's a really, really tight turnaround. The days are absolutely jam-packed. And the pressure is on to kind of get the show into get the day into shape exactly how you've kind of seen it and envisaged it, and to be working with the actors that we work with on the show, it's just makes it so much more enjoyable because there is a lot of pressure, but it's so much fun. I love it. I wouldn't have it any other way.
So I've got one here for Ryan. What's it like going straight from college into the industry? Now I know we could touch on this a little bit.
Yes. Well. It's lovely. I I've always wanted to be an actor. Just loved it as a kid. I think the buzz you get from it is just one of them feelings you can't really replicate, and actually getting kind of like your dream to be on a set and do what you love every day and get kind of paid for it as your job, it doesn't really feel like a job. So, and I think I've learned so many things from all of you that I'll take hopefully into my future career, and it's just like loads of little things that like I didn't even know, like, you know, different camera shots.
When you walked into the camera.
Yes. So, you might have heard the story, but first, it was my very first day, and then they said, can you walk into it for continuity? Went straight over my head, didn't know what that was. Izzy was like, just step back. So then I didn't realise there's a massive camera behind me, step back, gone, bop, into the camera, and everyone's going, oh my gosh. Like, what was it? RT's down or something.
RT's down,
RT's just been hit, and I was like, oh, stop. And everyone's looking at me at set, I'm like, this is the new boy. So
it was okay, can I just
it didn't hurt at all. It was
fine.
just, so learn, don't walk into a camera,
Yeah.
hit your mark, and be a nice person.
Yeah.
Like it. Okay, Izzy, what characteristics do you share with Frankie? It's an interesting one.
That is really interesting. I think obviously we are very different people, but I like to bring a little bit of maybe like my vulnerability into her. I think when she first came in, she was so loud and gobby, and that was probably me at 15. But you know, me now at 23, I try and be less like that. And I think I'm quite an anxious person. Everybody here knows I'm, you know, and I think I like the way that she's strong, but within her vulnerability. I think that when she disclosed and she has such a lovely relationship with her family now, she allows herself to be soft and to be vulnerable, and that's something I've learned is actually strong to do as I've got older. So yeah. And
I suppose this can go to both of you. How have you found the public treating you differently, playing your roles?
Do you know what? Kind of was apprehensive at first, because obviously the character that I'm playing is obviously got quite a lot of negatives to him. So you're kind of scared, and like we was talking about social media before, anyone can reach out to you. So it's kind of like a scary feeling that. But I mean, touch wood, and you know, it's been a lovely perception every single time I meet someone. People have been really kind and kind of complimenting it, like, oh my gosh, I hate you, but you're doing really well. Yeah. Like you're doing like you're quite a good actor, because I just hate you so much. And then people have been really kind with it. So that kind of surprised me a lot about people. And it's lovely to hear when you actually do help someone out, of being like, I was in a really tough situation, and because of your storyline, you've helped me reach out to someone I love, or I realised that wasn't okay and it's not my fault. And I think that's definitely one of the main reasons why I wanted to do it. And I think you'd agree with that. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I have lovely messages and letters that people write in, and you know, when I meet somebody and they say, most of the time I've seen it on TikTok and you know, and it's made me start watching the show, which is incredible. But like yeah, TikTok
I've had
TikTok girl.
You need to watch on Channel 4.
Yeah, Channel 4 guys. Well,
nice plug.
As well as
TikTok.
But yeah, I've had so many people saying they've felt like they've been seen and be able to open up to their families because of Frankie. And yeah, I've just had a lovely response on social media, which has been great.
And David, how does it compare for you to other storylines you've done?
Like I've kind of touched on before, the how massive this story's been. That pressure I do kind of take a little bit onto my shoulders, especially when it came to the final stuff in the courtroom, because you just want to do it justice. You know the impact that it's had on the audience, and you just want to do your absolute best that you possibly can and give everything you've got into making it like that. And I'm just very fortunate that the cast, the crew, the production all feel the same way I do. So we all kind of just make it work together, and that's always been the kind of shining star for me working here. That everyone, you know, when they're in it, they're just so focused and determined to make a brilliant piece of telly. And I think that what we did in the courtroom, and I hope the audience home agree, is just some really, really good, brilliant storytelling from some fabulous actors. So it's that expectation and that sense of pressure can always kind of make you feel like you're not quite going to hit it, and then when you watch it in the edit and you hit those beats and you hit those bits, it can just feel really, really satisfying. So I just hope everyone at home feels.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
You should all be very proud. It's absolutely stunning.
Thank you.
It's, and such a proud moment to know that we've got to the point where Frankie gets justice, that hopefully resonates with many people out there, and was the right ending and one that we're really, really proud of.
So, with this storyline, there must have been so many difficult decisions to make. What was the toughest decision you had to make while navigating this storyline?
Well, when we first conceived it, we actually had a very clear plan about how the story would pan out, what the pacing would be, what the kind of peaks would be, and what the conclusion was that we wanted and that we were passionate about. However, we were thrown a bit of a left field twist in that when we were told that we were going to be reducing to 3 episodes from September, and we then decided to do the time jump and move the show a year in time, we were then obviously looking at, well, which stories transition across that time jump and
what's happened.
How do they do that? And my first and biggest concern, and in fact, before I even agreed that we were going to do the time jump, I had to spend a day thinking and talking about this story because it was the story that I am the most passionate about and knew was the most important to the fans. And so we needed to make sure that it was the right decision for that story. So because before we knew that we were going to do the time jump, obviously we got to August and Frankie was going to disclose, and then we were going to play out the kind of time waiting for the trial and properly follow, exploring Darren's reaction and all the families' differing opinions and the communities on that as to whether JJ was innocent or guilty and how that kind of manifests. But then we, 2 or 3 weeks after Frankie's disclosure leapt a year in time, all of a sudden we were looking down the barrel of not being able to tell out those immediate moments in the aftermath in that way, and I was really partly devastated because that was the bit of the story that I was then also incredibly interested in and knew would provide great drama, but would also be really important for people. So one of the first options that we explored was that you can come back after a year and we go straight into the trial, which is realistic in terms of how long it takes to wait for trial to go to court. However, I again felt we would have missed out a huge chunk of the journey, and I think I mentioned before, like one of the things that I was really interested in, that we were all the editorial team were really interested in writing, was what do you do if you're a parent and this happens to you? What do you do in your family? What does the community think? What do you say to the community about this and how this has happened and how you've not known about it, and what do you do? So there was a pitch by a writer, Claire Sumi, who had pitched a while before that JJ got leukemia and that Frankie was the only person that could donate bone marrow. And what I liked about that was that it allowed us to tell this journey of Darren being a parent to both of those children and being met with a new dilemma, which is, my son's done this horrendous thing that I can never forgive, but do I want him to die?
It was awful.
And
It was awful.
But that I felt, I strongly felt that it would open up the conversations and the scenes that we all really wanted to see, whilst also having navigated this time jump. And so that was why we did that, to really kind of test and throw these characters into this new dilemma and debate. And it was, again, it would, as you imagine, and we did test Frankie in this way, seeing JJ so sickly and weak, does that mean that emotionally you want to then, forgive?
You're trying to find the redeemable quality somewhere, and I think when it comes to a life and death situation, again, it was still like, you can't ignore that. Nobody wants anyone to die.
It brings it into really
it's your
sharp
son,
focus.
and the guilt that comes with it, everything that came with it was yeah, it was like being in a washing machine of emotions. It really was.
And some of my favourite scenes came out of that. Just kind of the people in the village talking about it, and even there was a scene with you and Jen Metcalf, Mercedes, talking about that. And obviously Mercedes is going through her own cancer experience, but you know, Darren's journey was so complex, and his opinions and attitudes were so complicated, that again, I think it brought everything into sharp focus, and it gave us a new, fresh angle at which to approach it, but that still left us in a place where, you know, the right thing could happen and JJ could still get, you know, the punishment that he deserved, and that Frankie got the ending that she needed.
Justice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, what was your favourite standout moment from this storyline, or top 2, 3, whatever you want to do?
God, there's so many. I mean, the moment where I disclosed to you was one of the most emotional moments for me as Izzy, because when I got that script through, it was heartbreaking, and I felt sick reading it, and I spoke to you and I said it was just so emotional to read it. I can't imagine how the viewers must feel. And then when I actually did it, you were there. This outpour of emotion just came from nowhere. I wasn't even supposed to get that emotional in that moment, but it was like everything that Frankie had built up in those 9 months just came out of me in that moment. And it shocked you, because you were like, oh, we didn't practice
my thing
this.
with things like that is you get the script and you're buzzing because it's so incredible.
Amazing.
But then it's almost kind of like, I don't want to do that yet. I don't want to do that scene yet. I'm not ready for that scene yet. And then you get these calls like, it's that scene tomorrow. I'm not ready for the scene. I'm not ready for this scene. Not ready for this scene. Then you do it, and it's like, poof, and you
everything just went.
oh, I feel so good. I've done that scene now. You know, and it does, because in the back of your head, you know what's coming. You know your storyline, and I think for you especially, and it's so important, especially after doing a storyline that's gone on for over a year, I think.
Yeah.
Is it?
Like nine.
January.
But obviously at that point, maybe. But either way, the gravity of that scene, and even for me watching you, it's like, I know there's something coming here, and I don't know what's going to hit me. And obviously you're incredible doing it, but that in itself, I think, has been the incredible thing about this storyline. You're getting onto set,
and you don't know what
with
each
that
other's
person
gonna
and that
do.
person. You don't really know what's going to happen. You know what you want to happen, and I think the story took us along with it, didn't it? Really.
Massively, and I think that was the moment for me where everything just went, and just all this emotion came out that I just wasn't expecting, because in my head I thought, this is how I'm going to play it, I'm going to do this, and then Ashley's going to do that, and that just didn't happen. And I think it was just so much more realistic and natural, and ended up being one of the shortest scenes we'd probably done, but then probably one of my favourites.
I think I can remember you just kept on rolling. I think
Just
you just
kept
kept on
going
going,
and
and we just kept on going, and I was like, wait,
and I kept going.
And I'm one of those who goes, I've had enough now.
Yeah,
self-edit, cut. No one's cutting.
Yeah.
And obviously, because she's doing that, it's like, no, we've got to go with this. We've got to keep going. So,
there was such a buzz around the building. You always know when something is good, but when all the crew are buzzing about it and talking about it at lunchtime and are desperate to come up to me and go, you really want to wait and see that in the viewing. And there really was that after you shot that moment.
And I think as well, just to come in on that, because we were hooking on Frankie telling Darren, and then Darren's shock. So the plan was to be on Frankie, back to Darren, Frankie, and then finish on Big Darren, going a big close up of Darren.
That's how he speaks to me. It's awful.
And then that final moment of Darren, before we then cut to credits, so then we can pick it back up in the following day. And because Izzy had this complete raw
breakdown
response, it was
drama queen,
and absolutely justified in the moment. And then the plan was to be on Darren's dilemma before we cut, but then there was this instinctive moment for Ashley to want to then comfort Izzy.
Yeah, it was hard because we didn't want. You wanted that idea of, does he believe her? Even though he wants to believe her, would you believe her? And this is what the whole storyline's about. So that moment was all of that in one, but you've just got to get something out within a couple of beats. So it was very tricky.
It was, but the thing that you both found in that moment was so real and raw, and it's why it captivated, I think, so many people at that particular time, because
I think it was a vulnerability of both characters, is the fact that there isn't the answer. And that, I mean, I think I even put it out on a post back then. It was like, what would you do? Because that's the question. What would you do? And you don't know what you would do. You don't know how you'd react. And again, you know, it was very, very tricky. Yeah. And what about yourself?
I was just thinking there's been so many moments that have been like really magical. I'll say I'll go for a lighter option for one. So it was like a Friday, and it'd been a long day.
Oh God, I know what you're gonna say.
And we'd been filming, and it started to get like silly o'clock. So we all like, everyone started getting a little bit giddy on set, and we all know we had to get this scene in. And then, do you know when you get the giggles? So I'm really bad for getting giggles on set. So I've got giggles.
He explodes.
Suzanne,
he bottles it in.
And
he did it once when he was in bed,
like
and it was a
this
really
weird
emotional
noise.
scene.
Yeah.
I think I've said something like I do, put a seed in. I'm not going to take away from your story, but he'll just sit there through the scene, and obviously because he was ill in bed and he was like that, but he just goes.
I just kind of
like, you're in the middle of the scene, I'm talking to Izzy, and then I just said, you carry on, you just go.
I know, it is awful.
It's like a bottle of Coke getting shook up and he just lets it go in bits. It's weird.
So
but
it's like a Friday, and we couldn't get this scene done because we all started giggling. And Suzanne's going.
And the camera's on me,
the camera's
so
on
I
his.
was trying to like cry and be like, guys.
And then so we
Everyone's
finally
laughing at
got it all together, and you can tell the director's getting slightly like he wants to go home. It's Friday, and we're all there, and you can tell the crew are starting to get a little bit, you know. And we're all there like, no, we're like, proper serious. So we can't look at each other. We're all looking at foreheads, not eyes anymore.
Yeah.
And we're all there. This scene, and then a parrot
Not
flies.
joking.
No word of a lie. An actual parrot. A parrot flies past, and I go. And then Susan goes,
so
"Oh
true.
my God, it's a parrot!"
I didn't know what you were
The whole crew just goes.
Say then, but yeah, this is in a car park. We're outside.
Yeah.
I don't know why
Really
a parrot.
big
I don't know what he
scene.
was doing in Liverpool.
And then the director
someone's parrot had
just
escaped,
went, cut,
but it
and
just
we went
added to
home
it.
and we didn't do this.
You know, you say
The
that can't be
director-
true. We all turn around. Oh my days, it's a parrot.
Literally, the director went, "Oh, we're going home."
Cut, we finished, and we had to pick it up another day inside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Only in Tillswall.
Yeah. And then
In
second
Gilmore.
is definitely just the court. I love the court. Acting wise, it was just something you could like express yourself loads.
Yeah.
And
Being
it was
on
just, it was like
location
a
as
like a
well,
holiday,
it's-
really.
yeah.
It was like a holiday. No, it was like a holiday, but then
Great,
you.
really glad there was a holiday for you.
Well, we stayed away for 3 nights, didn't we?
Three
so
nights,
on
yeah,
location
and then
for 3
just the
nights,
film and
all
just-
together as a crew and you know all the people in the courtroom. So it's as an experience.
It was such
with
an
your
experience
first job.
and
It's
just-
one thing doing it on sets with people, but when you've got to stand there in a full court full of, I think it was 25 extras plus all the courts and the
It felt so
Yeah,
real,
that's
and it
great.
was so.
it puts you in that space, doesn't it?
Yeah,
and
it
I
was
think
just
that was
special.
fun because he said I'm a bit nervous about it. I said, well, you will be. It's the first time doing that. It's like being on a stage in a different way, and actually being there and being having the questions thrown at you, it's almost real because you've got the audience there, like a real scenario. So I suppose it was an interesting dynamic, wasn't
I
it?
love the court stuff,
Yeah.
so I'm really excited
It
to
was
see
great. I was, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see it.
If you or anyone else has been affected by the sibling sexual abuse storyline, please head to channel4.com/support for more information.